Good evening. You're flying with Pod Squadron Podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy, Pod Job, standing by.
This is Tracy, Pod Tracer, standing by.
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed entertainment, and your art and inspiration from a galaxy far, far away. Today's flight plan includes The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore, and Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 12, The Outpost. And for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I'll be your squad leader for today. I'm Andy Lowe, a.k.a. the Chinese Pirate, director, storyteller, puppeteer.
What's a story?
Performer and fight choreographer. And on my wing is Tracy.
I don't remember seeing that category at the Academy Awards yesterday. I am Tracy, the hot nerd girl, and I'm preparing myself for a little St. Patty's Day.
You got some Grogu green on you at the moment.
I do.
Yes.
I know. I'm going to smack him in the face with these things. I smack myself in the face with them.
It's a lucky
But they hurt
Andorian.
my head. So
There you go.
I'm going to take them off now. They hurt my head.
And of course, we are just one squad in the fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube. Also on Facebook, find us and like all the different shows that we have going on. As foils to attack positions, we're going in. All right. Really quickly before we dive in, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more when we get to Geek Beast Crux talk later on. But congratulations to all the winners at the Oscars last night. Some very exciting stuff. Any highlights for you, Tracy?
Well, I have not watched the Oscars in years, actually. I haven't really been super interested in them, especially when having been raised by a Foley artist. Once they kind of stopped doing a lot of the categories and not including people in the in memoriam and things like that, like it was just kind of like, meh. But I wanted to support Ke Huy Quan, and so I tuned in this year and was not disappointed on that front. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that they seemed to have listened. In fact, I think even during his opening monologue, Jimmy said, like, hey, we listened to you guys and we're going to bring some of this stuff back and change some stuff. And I think you were saying that they're doing a ranking system for votes now. So it's maybe a little more accurate, a little less biased, because I feel like when you just had one vote, like all the campaigning and everything, whereas now with a rank, and
just to clarify, so from what I've heard, they've actually changed the voting system so that you vote a ranking system for all the nominees. So it's like your number one choice, your second choice, your third choice, and they kind of do the math that way. so that if your number one choice is definitely out, then your number two choice gets the next priority, and hoping that makes the results a little bit more equitable. And
Yeah.
definitely noticed like there was no section where like earlier in the night we gave out these awards to the unimportant stuff that no one cares about. It's like,
Yeah.
which was like great. It's like yes, because I mean this is a celebration of cinema. That this is the craft, that we should be celebrating. So I applaud them for doing that.
Yeah, there was a few surprises to me, but you know, on the whole, I thought that, the right people won. I also have not seen all the movies, so I'm a little bit biased towards everything all everywhere all at once.
Well, and in and of itself is still already a bit of a not exactly an upset, but I mean a shift, right? It is very rare for what would be considered a genre film, right? Quote unquote genre, sci-fi comedy. Both sci-fi and comedies are not something that you generally see in the Oscar bait categories, right? Like the
Yeah.
one film, or I mean, All Quiet on the Western Front, definitely very much Oscar baity.
Mhm.
Irish drama, very Oscar baity. So the fact that this wacky hot dog fingered martial arts sci-fi movie managed to get recognition is pretty great and astounding, and as an Asian American feels very good. um
Oh, I bet.
uh but I will say, I mean, just
Poor
to both
guys.
uplift, my own community, but also acknowledge that, it still speaks volumes about how little Latinx
Mm.
representation there was, right? And it is still the thing where, yeah, you can only get nominations or awards for parts and movies that get made. And, it's like, it's great to see Guillermo del Toro and his big team of Mexican animators, doing Pinocchio and being awarded for that. It's great to see Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek, because I love them both, as presenters, and Pedro
Her daughter
Pascal.
is adorable, by the way. Oh
Oh,
my
I've never
goodness.
seen her daughter.
She was on the carpet with her.
Oh, no way.
She's like 15 now, which I was like, for some reason I feel like she just had a baby daughter like yesterday. So I was like, she's 15 now, but I mean, she's already just like stunning, and
I mean,
she's
because Salma Hayek is a bit ageless, and like between her and oh God, why am I blanking on? I'm still blanking on names. I cannot think straight. Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer, back in the zeitgeist after Ant-Man, and it just like, yeah,
Mhm.
my '90s kid heart is like,
Actually, like I somehow missed his red carpet thing, where I guess he was rude to the people who were asking
oh,
questions.
you're talking about
Um,
Hugh
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 Grant.
Grant.
I,
Yeah.
I missed that, but I actually thought it was kind of neat how so all I saw was him on stage with Andy McDowell, and him saying like how she was still so ageless and he looked like a scrotum. And I was like, and I laughed. I was like, that's awesome. And then I saw like the footage of him, and to be honest, like, I mean, he's always been kind of a
Yeah, is it
weird
just
guy.
dry British humor,
I
or
think it's a combination of that and feeling very awkward, because
yeah?
everybody made a big deal about his eye roll at the end, and I was like, that's something I would do, and it would have completely nothing to do with being annoyed. It would just be like awkward, like where do I put the mic?
I mean,
Like I don't know.
I'm always impressed they convinced Harrison Ford to do anything. I think the only way they got him to present Best Picture is because they said, yes, you're going to be handing this off the key.
So because I have my own issues with Harrison Ford, he was very, very cruel to a friend of mine, to the point where at my
Mm,
friend's memorial service, everybody, like several people were wearing "fuck Harrison Ford" t-shirts.
mm.
Um, but so when he got up there and he was talking about like empathy and stuff, and I was like, well, he didn't write that because he has no empathy for anybody, like ever. But when Key went up there and they gave each other a big hug, I was like, because I mean, he made me cry during his acceptance speech.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's my up in the 80s, nerdy little heart, you know, having, I mean, he was definitely my Goonies crush because he was the inventor kid and he was so cute, you know, and I loved, so that was really sweet. And the fact that Harrison Ford looked genuinely excited for him and Steven Spielberg in the audience looked genuinely excited for not only him, but for the movie itself. But like when Jimmy pointed out that Brendan Fraser and he had been in Encino Man together, and then they end up winning the Oscars like the same year. Right. That was just like, and how they both have had this like comeback, and you know, and it's part of it is because they're just like such genuinely good, nice, humble people. Like it's, I don't know, it was very heartwarming, I thought.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And you know, and really just I mean, the year-long, you know, ticker tape parade this film and everyone on this project has had, from the SAG Awards to the Golden Globes to, I mean, you know, it's been great to watch all of this over the last year. But I digress. Let's get back to the matter at hand, which is let's talk some Star Wars.
Okay.
And it is we are in a, you know, a gilded age right now because we have two shows to talk about. We're going to start with the Bad Batch. We have episode 12, The Outpost, that dropped last week. Yeah, finally we get ourselves another Crosshair episode.
Yeah.
You want to give a little rundown, Tracy?
Sure, I would be happy to. It's funny because we've only seen Crosshair in 2 episodes so far this season. And those 2 episodes have been the strongest episodes of the season. And they're like these interesting kind of standalone stories that ultimately connect back, but they really are kind of standalone. So
they're also like the darkest freaking things in the show.
Yeah.
Also, I mean,
especially for animation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically we've got Crosshair. He's at this spaceport. There's this woman walking clones around saying the Empire thanks you for your service. You are now retired. And they're like, well, we were forcibly retired. We don't really want to be retired. And Crosshair's watching all this, right? And then we get this guy coming up, Lieutenant Nolan, who has serious Cyril vibes. If you remember Cyril from Andor, he just kind of feels like the animated version of that, but with like the Spaceballs helmet on in white. And so this commander, or this Lieutenant Nolan, is basically treats him like crap right from the get-go because he obviously has a lot of disdain for clones. And they go to this remote outpost that is commanded by a clone named Mayday, and they've been guarding stuff for, it seems like a couple of years.
I think he says 36 rotations since the last check-in was supposed to be.
Yeah, and so they were there before that even. Yeah. We don't know exactly what rotations is, but we're assuming it's like months, I would think.
I was presuming rotations would be a day, or like a rotation around.
Oh,
well, no, that's true. Actually, that could be.
It just seemed like they'd been there for a long time.
Planetary rotation would be a day, but a solar rotation would be a year. So it could be. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been 36 years, obviously, but so I figured it was like
36
a
months
year and a half,
like that. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, or at least 36 weeks. I mean, long enough
the
that
rotation could be faster. You know?
I think also too, like
True.
if you're talking about like strictly in military parlance, like a rotation is like a tour of duty.
Oh, I see.
So any, that's varies, right? So like when I was on the ship, when we were deployed for 6 months, right? So it could be something like that too.
Yeah,
cool.
Like on a Westpac.
Yeah, exactly. It could be something.
Yeah,
like
that. But the point is that they've been there for a while because
time.
they
Yeah,
have
exactly.
they have all these helmets lined up on these crates that they've been guarding that they don't even know what's in them. They've never checked. They've been told not to check, and they are good soldiers following orders, right? And so,
that said, they are outgunned and undermanned. There's only 3 clones left at this outpost, and of course Nolan is like, where are all your men? He's like, they're all dead. And he's like, oh, well, this is your fault.
yeah. And so Mayday is like, well, how many commands have you had? And this lieutenant is like, and he's like, yeah, that's what I thought, biatch. So anyway, this planet also has raiders who have been stealing all of this stuff. And so when they come and they attack and they steal some crates, Nolan sends Mayday and Crosshair off to recover them because he blames them for the raiders getting these crates. Through the course of this, Crosshair goes from being his normal, like, emo Crosshair self to actually having to trust Mayday because he has stepped on a landmine, and Mayday's going to have to, pin this thing down in order for him to be able to step off. And just through conversing with him, like, Mayday's like, man, I don't want to be on your team because you would just leave me behind. Because Crosshair's like, he's dead, peace, let's go. And he's not useful anymore. And throughout the course of the episode, Crosshair kind of realizes that the way that he felt is even more so how the Empire feels about him. And so it's this combination of the Empire doesn't really care about me, and oh my gosh, I was kind of had the same mentality as the Empire. And when when Mayday gets injured, he tries to drag Mayday back to the camp, and only to have Lieutenant Nolan say, well, this Mayday fulfilled his purpose and we don't need him anymore, just let him die. And Crosshair's like, well, you see, like, like the sparks flying behind his eyes, and he sees, like, the raptor flying above him, and he's just like, well, screw that. And he frags the lieutenant, which I don't know how many people know the term frag. It's a term from a fragment bomb, which is like soldiers in Vietnam, if their officer treated the soldiers really poorly, they would just sort of like toss one of these bombs into the tent and bye officer. And this happened relatively frequently to officers that behaved really poorly and didn't really know what they were doing and were putting people in danger. So yeah, he does that to him, and of course then he's captured and he's taken to Mount, is it Tantus?
Yes, he wakes up in Mount Tantus,
where they want to take Omega, and they're injecting him with something, we don't really know what yet. And so who knows, are they gonna use his DNA? Are they gonna use him to blackmail for Omega? We don't know. That's the dun dun dun. But yeah, so that's a quick summary.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things in this episode. Of course, I mean, within seconds you learn that, okay, I'm gonna hate Nolan because Nolan is an absolute jerk. I mean, yeah, that initial introduction where he refers to the clones as used equipment, right?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, dude. It's pretty intense, and it's also kind of showing you kind of where that comes right on the hot on the heels of the other Imperial officer who's doing the forced retirement, and it's bringing together all these bits that we've seen from from Chuchi trying to get retirement plans, basically
retirement benefits
for clones, and failing. And
well, just like the people seeing them as less than human, right? Like they don't have representation. Sure. They don't have, anyway.
The other kind of chilling thing is this ending. I'm going to come back to this. We've been hearing little bits and pieces about Mount Tantus. We know that Lana Sue is there, held against her will, and being asked to, return to her genetic experiments. We also know that they have a Zillo beast, and who knows what the hell they're doing with that Zillo beast. And then the thing I've even thought about too was, what is it, the first or second episode where they had the assassin who turned out to be a clone.
Yeah.
Who's wearing the different kind of armor, and it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, okay, whatever was done to that clone, is that like generation 1 of whatever they are planning to do with Crosshair now? And the real kind of chilling thought here is that when I think back to the helmet design of that the assassin had, um, is there a bit of a resemblance to what we will see later on as the Dark Trooper head shape, right? If that's the case, are they about to turn Crosshair into a Generation 1 Dark Trooper? Which means, if you know some of the lore, right? Of course, we've seen Dark Troopers in season 2 of the Mandalorian, where they are fully droid, and there's a quick throwaway line that they just removed the last of the biological elements to remove weakness, right? In some of the Legends canon, and the idea behind the Dark Troopers is ultimately they took remaining clone soldiers and basically just started augmenting them with droid implants so that they could be more easily controlled and not waste, so to speak, as Nolan says, old equipment. And it's pretty bleak, right? I mean, that is I know there's been some speculation, like is Crosshair possibly like the first Death Trooper? Is a Death Trooper, that's the really lanky, tall, skinny troopers that we saw in Rogue One? Is the Death Trooper like phase 1 of what will become the Dark Trooper? Is he about to get hacked up and getting droid implants against his will? It's yeah, like I said, kind of dark.
Most of the clones still have the implant that caused them to switch during Order 66, right? We know that Crosshair,
yes.
We know that Crosshair doesn't, and he just made the choice for himself.
Right.
But the sniper one, is that something that in most clones who still have that implant that they can program that implant?
I don't think I don't think that they implied that they actually did any kind of like scan of that assassin to see what other augments were in him. Clearly we've seen other, they even imply that Cody, who we saw earlier this season, did not have his chip removed, but his kind of morality and it has been in conflict with his programming, and we've seen that from other clones as well, right? In other episodes.
I guess I wondered that because when they injected Crosshair, I was wondering if they were putting him under to perhaps re-implant a chip,
a new chip,
right? Maybe. Or a different one, like an updated one that would cause him to become one of these assassins, or is it going to end up kind of like Echo? And then
that was my thought, and a thought in terms of maybe that's a reason to kind of pull Echo out of the group so that we kind of forget this idea of what it means to be kind of droid part augmented, so that when we get to this, it's a little bit more horrific again. But
we shall see.
But like I said, yeah, it's a completely self-contained story, but if you're paying attention and you remember everything else that we've seen in this season, it is tying things together in subtle ways. And yeah, like I said, it seems really dark. Really dark.
One of the things I forgot to mention in my recap too was that they've created this memorial of these clone helmets on top of these boxes that they don't know what's inside, and it turns out that what is inside is TK Trooper helmet. So they've been guarding the equipment that's going to go to their replacements and dying for this, not knowing that that's what they're dying for.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things in this episode, just that kind of ratchet up just the dread, the existential dread. Even from the beginning motif of as soon as you land on the planet and you're looking at those ice hawks circling, those ice hawks are always circling and like are a constant theme.
So they're basically vultures, right?
Yeah, basically. I thought this was a great episode, surprisingly dark, particularly when we have, all this kind of gee whiz, hey, look, Omega. And it's like, and not that they haven't been building towards it, but when it just seemed Yeah, I mean, kind of the direction this is headed is pretty impressively dark. What do you think? I mean, are we going to? Do you think we're going to see more of Crosshair soon, or do you think it's going to be saved up again till like the end of the
I
season?
think, well, because we only have what, 4 episodes left?
Let's see here. This is 12 and it's to 16. Yeah, so it's 4 episodes left.
I think that the next couple of episodes they're gonna start bringing the two storylines together. I don't know if it's gonna involve Sid in some way, and that's if maybe Crosshair rejoins the team and they all break away from Sid, or if it ends on some kind of cliffhanger where they are able to capture Omega and Mount Tantus, and maybe the next season is has to begin with them saving her. I the person who loves like the last movie in every trilogy hopes that there's a reconciliation with Crosshair, but I
Sure.
also know that that's that not everybody likes things wrapped up in a little bow like that, and that continuing that conflict might be more interesting in the long run. But I think pretty soon here, if not next episode, then the episode after that, they're going to start bringing them together somehow, some way. What
Well, I
about
mean,
you?
considering we ended last episode with them saying we needed to talk to Rex and Echo about what we've found out about the Zillow Beast, right? That is clearly going to bring them on a collision course to Mount Tantus. How far along uh, Crosshair will be in his possible transformation? I think that's a big question, right? We do have the titles for the next 4 episodes. So the next episode is very innocuously named Pabu. I have no idea what that refers to. It sounds,
Babu.
yeah, it sounds like
Sounds like a pet.
like a pet name or something. Yeah. But the episode after that is called Tipping Point. So something's going down there. Uh huh.
What did I say?
Uh,
Maybe not the next episode, but the episode after that.
And then the penultimate episode is called The Summit, which, I mean, that's probably referring to Mount Tantus.
Yeah, I think. Or it's a double entendre.
A double. Well, the last episode, the season finale, is called Plan 99, not 69, but 99.
Missed opportunity.
Yes, there you go.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm excited to see how this wraps up.
Plan 99 makes me feel like there's going to be an attempt to create a new type of augmented Bad Batch type thing by the Empire.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it references Clone Force 99,
Right.
and which of course is named for Clone Designation 99, who was the deformed, or not deformed, but kind of quote unquote defective clone, what they were referring to. But
Special. He's special.
special. Great. Anything else we want to cover on the Bad Batch at all?
Let's
Anything in chat?
see. I think I said everything I wanted to say. Oh, Danny says a rotation is a day, a revolution is a year, and that the bagel
Okay.
is everything. That must have been
Yes.
referring to everything everywhere all at once. Peter says execute order 69, or I mean 99. Oh, he's making a joke. Okay. That's my job to make dirty jokes, Peter.
All right. Well, then, if nothing else, let's move on to The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, The Mines of Mandalore. Okay, so this is fun stuff. You want to try and recap this? Oh,
Yes.
oh yes. It's very easy
course.
to slip in.
Or the mines of
Yes.
Mandalore. See, I almost said the mines of Moria.
Where is Mandalorian? Oh frick, what's his name? What's the name of the actor? British actor?
That plays who?
that plays the dwarf.
John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies. Where's Mandalorian John Rhys Davies?
I'd watch that. Anyways, okay, so this is chapter 18, technically. And we've got, let's see.
Okay, so last week we left off. He went to go visit Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan is like, I've been abandoned by my people because I don't have the dark saber. Go wave that freaking thing around. They'll follow you. Our people are scattered. Everything.
And basically, I
sucks.
don't ever want to see you again.
Piss off.
So this one, I think this one opened with Peli, didn't it?
Yes, we are. It's Bunta Eve once again on
Bunta
Tatooine.
Eve, which I actually Googled, and that is there was a Hutt who achieved like a godlike status, and his name was Bunta, and so that's what Bunta Eve is, and we first see that in Phantom Menace. The pod races are what they use to commemorate Bunta Eve,
And we do get to see some racers. Looks like speeder racers cruising through Tatooine, as well as just some dude just doing donuts. If you see that in the corner of the screen.
And Peli's missing a tooth now.
That's right.
I had to Google a picture of her to make sure that wasn't there before.
They kept up the continuity because there's a moment where she spits out a tooth. In, Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, that's right.
When she gets tossed out of the rickshaw.
That's right. I totally forgot about it. So many things I forget about because they were in that weird episode arc in Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
Even with okay, so moving on. She's scamming people, right? Like she's using the Jawas to scam like this like rich Rodian guy, Rodian guy, and Mando Jin lands and Grogu jumps out, and she's like, "Where'd you learn that?" And I had to remind myself that happened during Book of Boba Fett, not during The Mandalorian. The whole Luke training sequence.
Right.
So anyway, we get to see R5 have like his moment of glory. Like apparently he's been on Tatooine all these years, and Mando is going there to get a memory chip, right, for IG-11, and these things just don't exist anymore. You can't get them. So she talks him into taking R5D4, who is apparently like a total chicken shit for a droid. Even though she's like, he was in the war, he's so brave, and he's just like, eh. But he goes, and they go to Mandalore, although I feel like something else happens. Oh, she does bring up that Boba Fett is still in charge, because she asks him if he's there to take on Boba Fett or the Hutts, but she doesn't mention the gangster guys with the drugs.
Right. Well, I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
Obviously, Boba Fett's chased them away, but we do know that the Hutt twins are out there somewhere and may at some point still try to lay claim. Now that the Pikes are gone.
Right. So they fly to Mandalore, which is stormy on top. I feel like we've seen this in Star Trek a million times. It's like stormy on top and then actually like livable down below. And
okay, some important foreshadowing, right? Because we still get a little bit of this continuing this theme of Mando taking his foundling and mentoring him, showing him how to figure out what planet he's going to. He has a whole bit about how being a Mandalorian means that you don't know where you're going next. Yeah.
So we know both Jin and Bo-Katan bring up that the planet used to be very green and lush, and we know from the animated series that it becomes a desert, right? And they're all living under these domes, and then when they're attacked by the Empire, all that sand becomes glass, and it becomes green glass, so it's technically green again. But those domes have now collapsed underground or been covered by this green glass, and like they're kind of caved in, but still walkable. So one of the first things that we run into is when R5D4 is going to be checking the atmosphere. He disappears off the radar, so Jin has to go after him, and he runs into, I think they're called alamites.
Yeah, this was a funny moment where he's like, seal yourself in your pod so that you can be protected from the air. And it's like, does that pod really fit in the... it's fine.
It's in there somewhere.
There's somewhere. It just, it's fine.
It just slides into the nose cone or something.
There you go. Yeah.
So these alamites are, from what I gather, they are like the native people of this planet before the human Mandalorians came.
Right. And they lived in the wastelands. Bo-Katan has a line later on, outside of the domed cities.
But I kind of interpreted that as that being kind of like, you know, Aboriginals and Native Americans, where they were kind of forced to live on the outskirts while the humans took just, like the prime land.
They had domed cities, so like they were outside and they were protected from them. It is also kind of a cool little design detail that if you get a good look at their faces, they do seem to have these tusks that are reminiscent of the mythosaur skull that we've seen a million times, and you know, a little bit of foreshadowing for something that happens later. But
right, and yeah, and one of the things, and I think this was actually in Book of Boba Fett as well, was that the armor is explaining the history of Mandalore and how Mandalore the Great tamed a mythosaur, and that's how he became, you know, powerful, and it brought all the clans together, all the warring clans of the Mandalorians together for the first time. It's like the Great Khan of Mandalore, and then the next person, you know, after he's gone, they start warring again until Tar Vizsla is able to unite them with the Darksaber. And speaking of the Darksaber, we see Jin break it out, but of course it's like, you know, he's just dragging this thing around, desperately trying to like heft it at these creatures, and he is able to defeat them. But it's just so obvious that this is not like the right weapon for him.
He pulls out the saber, and then of course it sinks down as it weighs down. He swings and he misses, and the first time he actually connects to his opponent is with like a little hand dagger.
Yeah. And so anyway, so him and Grogu are going down and down into these different. Well,
first of all, so he rescues R5, has R5 do a scan of the atmosphere, and this is an important thing where the atmosphere is breathable, and he says, oh my gosh, Bo-Katan was right, that it's not toxic, like you can actually breathe here. The planet isn't, you know, deadly.
Right. It's not poisonous.
That's when he allows Grogu to come out, jumps out in his little pod, and joins him as they go and search for the mines.
Yeah. So he ends up picking up this, you know, finding and picking up this helmet that, I mean, Beskar is I mean, it was created to withstand lightsabers, so it's not much can destroy it, but this helmet has obviously been just wrecked. And at first I thought maybe it was just wear and tear, but I feel like that's not really what Beskar does. So I was kind of looking at like what could do that, and the thing that came up was that Sabine Wren had created a weapon that could like dissolve Beskar armor, right? Was it dissolve? I thought it was just electrical based, so it would fry people. But it kind of wrecks the Beskar, doesn't it?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
I think it was like the one thing that could wreck Beskar.
I thought it was just an electrical based weapon where the electrical current would be drawn to the Beskar, and therefore anyone inside the Beskar would basically just fry.
Without affecting the Beskar?
I can't remember. Again, it's been a long time since I've watched Rebels.
Peter's saying it cooks you inside out like a microwave.
Yeah.
But what does it do to the Beskar, Peter?
I think they wanted to keep the Beskar.
Well, maybe I'm remembering wrong. Anyway, so anyway, there's a hidden trap under there, and this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Half human, half robot,
a
cyborg
dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
it's like a
Grievous dude.
but all it is like a brain and an eyeball, and the rest
a
is
single
all
eyeball, yeah.
just this machine. And it's got one of those medieval things that Madmartigan was trapped in Willow, and he carries him off, and and Grogu's just kind of following along to see where he ends up. And Jin is basically able to get out to go get Bo-Katan, and so Grogu takes off, and as per his lessons, he's able to fly this plane back to where Bo-Katan lives.
Well, okay. Well, we get to see him force push an Alamite out of the way. He gets chased by a little flying dragon thing, and it's honestly, this was the cutest frame ever of him turning back to look at R5 and pointing his little hand at the little navigation chart, and he goes ah. Which presumably R5 figures out, go find Bo-Katan from the It was very like Lassie, like what's that, Lassie? Timmy's down a well.
They've really upped Grogu this season, by the way. Like, he looks really amazing. Anyway, so Bo-Katan like picks up on it right away. Show me where Timmy is, right? And they take off, and she kind of repeats everything about how Mandalore used to be this amazing place, and she, I mean, long story short, she gets to where Jin is, and she is able to get a hold of the Darksaber, and the power and the grace with which she's able to destroy this thing with the Darksaber is such a juxtaposition to the way that Din Djarin was wielding it. And I feel like, because he never uses the Darksaber, so I feel like that first scene with him using the Darksaber was purely to show how Bo-Katan, is so much more of a natural of it. And I don't know if it's because she just assumes that it's supposed to belong to her, so mentally she's there, whereas Jin has imposter syndrome when it comes to this thing, so he just can't like get there.
Clarity of purpose.
Because technically this thing doesn't belong to her, right? Like, in a mystical sense.
Well, I mean, we'll come back to that.
If this is an Elder Wand situation, then it doesn't technically belong to her. But
well, by tradition, it does not, because she has not won it in combat. But it is clearly rightfully hers, and she can wield it,
right,
by purpose and by yes.
So anyway, they have some chicken soup for the soul, and go back down so that Jin can do his little like rebaptism situation, and throughout their walk back down to the mines, she seems to be being sucked in more and more by Jin's like patriotism and adherence to the creed, and just his genuine love for all thing Mandalorian. And she is so like jaded at this point that it's like he's breathing life back into her. And so when he suddenly drops, she just like doesn't even blink. She just goes in right after him into this. That's right.
So
water.
he begins to recite the creed as he steps into the water in the mines, and right before he says, "I will not remove my helmet," he just gets sucked in. Yeah. And she just jumps into action, throws her helmet on, dives into the water. She's trying to track him. She turns off her light so that she can see the light of his helmet down to the bottom, picks him up, and then as she comes back up, carrying him,
what does she see?
An eye, a gigantic eye, and a hint of a tusk.
Yes. So these supposedly extinct mythosaurs, there's obviously at least one still living, right? And the whole thing. Oh, that's the other thing the armorer talked about, was that if
the coming of the mythosaur will,
when it rises.
When it rises, will
herald a new day.
So this was cool. I mean, we talked about yesterday, like how, as far as Mandalorian premieres go, the first episode was not weak, just kind of not
world building.
Yeah, it was world building and not the table. I mean, it's like when you compare it to the reveal of Grogu / Baby Yoda in the first season, and introducing Cobb Vanth and fighting a freaking crate dragon in the second season. Last week's episode felt smaller in comparison. But I think when you look at this in terms of this week's story and last week's story continuing an arc, oh my God, did it deliver?
Yeah.
This was like the last minute of the premiere with, when Jin and Grogu,
Yeah.
when Grogu's discovered. So Peter's said that he doesn't think that's what snagged Jin, that the dinosaur was just chilling, as surprised as they were, which is possible because it was a very steep drop off. So it's possible that he just like walked off the ledge and yeah. And it caught him so off guard that he was like lost consciousness.
So
maybe he banged his head.
Well, I also love everything they gave for Bo-Katan to do, right? Like everything from the moment that Grogu shows up on the planet and she's like, oh, this motherfucker's shown up again. Okay, I'm going to get rid of him for once and for all. Kick him off, just leave me alone. And she walks up to the ship and Grogu pops his head up and she's like, what happened?
Where's your dad? Where's your dad?
Yeah. And she just jumps right into action. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. Like she just was like right away. She just on everything, every step of the way. She just was jumped right into action. Right. She sees the dark saber laying there, shoots it, grabs it, starts fighting. Just like everything. And like I literally was watching. I was just like, man, she was so badass.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, like just absolutely badass.
Well, also, and some great little subtle things that the actress, that Katie Sackhoff is doing, right? As they're pulling into, this great contrast of, we see Din flying into Mandalore for the first time. There's a sense of foreboding. He doesn't know what he's going to find. And you can see like Katie Sackhoff's performance looking at, and she's in the volume, she's looking into a big video screen out the cockpit, but she's playing it. She's playing I remember when I could see my home, there were towers here, there was a majestic city here. And even, walking through the ruins as she's kind of bringing back these memories or telling,
talking about her dad, talking about her father.
Yeah. Well, I mean, her telling Grogu lessons. We've seen Din give Grogu lessons about what it is to be a Mandalorian, and now we see kind of her perspective on what it is to be a Mandalorian, and even just like the bitterness and the pang. There's some romanticism there, but there's also this like everything that she has lost, as she kind of, is remembering things.
And her telling Din as well, when he's only heard the armorer side of the story. He's never heard Bo-Katan tell her side of the story. And it's not even that she's really necessarily even denying what the armorer said. She says, like, I was a princess. I played in these places that are technically sacred. Like I said the words that I was supposed to say and I played the part. And it wasn't until everything was, kind of threatened that she kind of came into her own and actually became like a warrior princess, right?
Well, and it's continuing this thread that was established in the previous episode, right? Where you were seeing many different juxtapositions of kind of fundamentalism or tradition, and being a destructive force as people are locked into it, but also something that is also a legacy that is passed on. And okay, so I'm gonna say it right now. I mean, I don't know if it's likely, because I don't think this is the show they're gonna do it. But did you guys feel like they're shipping Din and
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
I
not
rewatched
just me.
it. Yeah, I rewatched it a little bit before we got on, and
she was
I
eyeballing
specifically watched
her.
yeah, because part of it too was especially that one
Mommy
line,
Bo. We get to see Mommy Bo.
Yeah, exactly. When she
the way she just sort of pushed
line,
Grogu.
Yeah,
she was doing the exact same thing that Din would do to protect him.
And then when she said that line to Grogu, like, what are you looking at? Like he's looking at her like, and he, he's.
Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
And she's never seen him, right? Yeah. Only Bill Burr's character.
No, she's seen Grogu.
She saw his face.
Jin's
his face.
Okay, yeah.
She
No,
just knows he's
wait.
got a hot bod under all that armor.
No. She has seen it.
No,
She did?
She saw it because
because
yeah,
he's- when
because
he's saying
when
goodbye.
he lifted his visor.
Yeah.
Okay.
To say goodbye to Grogu.
for
Yeah.
Grogu, yeah,
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so she has
everybody in
seen
that room seen.
yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
right.
But yeah, I think I definitely got that vibe too, Andy. And then
Well, also the way she kind of lit up a little bit when she refers to her dad, her father, and this is another kind of cool lore dump, right? Where we've met Satine, we've met Bo-Katan, we even met Corky, who I think they're just gonna dust under the rug, but we've never really heard anything about their father at all, and so she mentions him as he died protecting Mandalore, and in this very reverent way, Din says, "This is the way," and she kind of perks up at that, right? I mean,
yeah, I noticed that too.
Because he would too. He would die
yeah.
to protect it. Because
What-
the planet itself is such a part of their lore.
Yeah.
One other
It's-
thing I wanted to ask you guys. I know it's a little bit different.
Sure.
What was that creature? Like is that been shown in any other?
Wait,
like,
which creature?
The
one that in-
Alamite?
the one that, no, not the Alamite, the robot.
Okay,
Oh.
yes. So
Was
I
that
don't
part
know,
of, like, Clone
but I
Wars?
absolutely
Like, you
love
know?
it. So to me, this is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird and so creepy. It's basically a Grievous, right? It's like some
The
leftover.
technology is like the same era.
Who knows if it was a human or another alien or a Grievous race or some other race? But all that there's left is this brain and this eyeball, and he's managed to droid augment himself into just to survive. And the creepiness of he's literally like plugs in some tubes to Din to like drain him of biological fluids so that it can survive, which is like not a word. It's like, I mean, this is more, this is on Lexi's end of the show don't tell. It's like, oh my god, it just spoke so much to things that we've already seen, and things that you can infer from it. It's like, oh, this is creepy.
Speaking of like a Lord of the Rings like side or parallel, it kind of made me think of Shelob, like having to eat orcs most of the time, and then getting a hobbit and being like, ooh, sweet, juicy, like this tastes much better, because obviously it's been surviving on Alamites, because who knows how long this thing has been down there.
Sure.
I mean, even the Mythosaur gave me Balrog vibes.
Totally.
You know,
Oh yeah,
just the whole like.
maybe not as like
not it's not
evil,
as.
but
And they just them jumping down and traveling so long just to get to the bottom, and then even going even further to get to the bottom of the water. Right?
do you guys remember a cartoon called The White Seal? It was like on VHS when we were kids. Oh, so anyway, it's about a seal. Surprise. But it goes past like this big giant whale, and the whale just like opens its eye, and I was like, that's what it made me think of.
Another thing that I loved was cocky ass Bo, and she's like, wait, I gotta give you the full tour, and she goes to the plaque, and it's like California National Parks or Mandalorian National Parks, like, this is the spot where so and so first slayed the Mythosaur. And it's like, and of course you get that contrast of her kind of cynicism about it to like Din kind of coming to Mecca, right?
It is like their Mecca.
Yeah, basically.
Sure.
And you can also see kind of her respect for it, right? So okay, so this is my he's been underwater now. I hope we begin this next episode with him basically having to like take the helmet off because it's like filled with water or something like that, and then you get a little shippy moment where they're like, look into my eyes.
Wait, but then he has to go back in the water and do it all over again.
The water's right there, no problem.
I say that they just like camp out there, like have little like
Little more pog
Mandalorian
soup.
babies.
Pog soup.
Yeah. And every time they do it, he just goes back in the water and says it. It's like going to confession, you know?
Yeah. That's been the funny thing of I've seen a lot of other shows like on YouTube and who have been talking about the way they've been framing the Mandalorian way, and how much like allusion to Judeo-Christian, like like
Especially this season.
who is the Moses figure, who is the but I mean there's a lot of kind of like allusions to how the Spartans led to the whole the Catholic Church, more or less, basically.
I mean, it definitely gives you the vibes of like, there's different sects like fighting each other to the point where they're killing each other. So it's like, Protestants and the Catholics, right? It's very much that way.
Just as pointless.
And just as pointless. And then she says it, right? She says it all the time. She says it's like it's pointless the way you believe and that your creed believes. But at the same time, like,
well, she says they're a cult.
Yeah, but then also it gives those.
But remember, like Christianity was a cult initially too.
Yeah.
When the Romans.
I mean, you could argue that every religion is a cult.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it was being persecuted as a cult, by the Romans early on. But
then also like there's also the flip side of that where those moments, like you said, she's reading that plaque and she's being very dismissive of the lore and the myths. Then all of a sudden you see it, right?
Yeah.
You actually see it. Or then also, that moment where, he pays his respects by saying, this is the way. And so like, what I mean? All those little, and then she's also enamored and sticking around to like kind of watch him fulfill his mission, right? His creed and following it. So I and I was watching an interview with her earlier today too, and she was saying, she played Starbuck and she plays now, Bo-Katan, and both characters, she says she's really drawn to really complex characters. Mm-hmm. And Bo-Katan is really, really shaping up to be a very, very complex character.
She's like such the perfect person to play Bo-Katan.
Well,
it's crazy.
So
the amount of emotion in those air bubbles underwater. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so there's
you could hear the shit,
Yeah, there's an interesting thing to mine here too, right? Because they have that little exchange as they're talking about the mines, and Din kind of she calls the Children of the Watch a cult, and she kind of makes fun of the creed, and Din says the creed is what has kind of been, well, yeah, it's who are we without it, and he's kind of credits the creed for being kind of a thing that like a point of survival for their
guiding force,
force, and the thing that also makes me think about, right, where they've kind of set up, they've talked about her father, we haven't really talked about Bo-Katan, but I do kind of wonder if we're gonna get some flashbacks, because that would be really cool to see, right? Because we know that we know that Baby Bo took the creed. I cannot imagine that Satine took the creed, her being a pacifist and all, and we know that their father, we don't know where he stood on the pacifism as well, right? I think kind of deep lore, we know that he was a follower of Jaster Muriel, so not Death Watch, and not a pacifist, right? So that would be really interesting to see if we can kind of see that origin of where is the split, where she leaves her sister, who's the pacifist, she leaves behind her father, who
goes to Death Watch,
and she goes to Death Watch, and what leads her to Death Watch, right?
Rebelliousness,
and of course, more stuff that she has to contend with in terms of her hero's journey. I mean, that's the other kind of cool thing about this, where Bo literally saves Din Djarin twice in this episode.
Yeah.
This was very much Bo's hero's journey.
Yeah, and literally going into a cave.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
like going into a cave. Last week we saw her get the call to adventure, which she refused, and then she accepts the second time around. I mean, it's like, yeah, they just started hero's journey for Bo,
Yeah.
Which is in the Mandalorian show, which is like, okay, that's interesting. That kind
Maybe
of
we'll get a
recentering.
book of Bo-Katan.
I-
Maybe it
that
will
was the
also
other
have
thing I
half
was
of it be
thinking
about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking is like, are they setting her up for her own series? You know,
I mean-
that was one of the other things it was kind of crossing my mind because she's just such a rich character, and like you said, it's like there's all this history. Like,
but
it could
or does
be-
or does she become a major player in the Mandalorian, right? Particularly if we ship them,
true,
right? It's then she
and they're
she
building
becomes
Mandalore together.
If,
right?
yeah, I mean, if it becomes a thing where by the end of this season, you know, the armorer becomes the antagonist, and it becomes her, you know, telling him more about all the pog soup that he missed out on, you know, then it gives her a foil to introduce Din and then thereby introduce us to the rest of this culture as they rebuild.
It's kind of like saying,
Anything that gives us more Pedro Pascal visage, I'm down for. Peter's got some comments about the armor, by the way, so we'll have to get to that.
No, the way you make it really quickly, the way you said pog soup, it just for whatever reason, and again, I'm probably 12. Made me realize, like,
I got
yeah,
your pog soup.
yeah, it's like the guys that, like, you know, abstain from sex because, like, you know, Christianity, and then they finally get a taste of like sex and they just go crazy, like they know what they, you know. So like he's been like, you know, following this
Like that
creed.
Catholic priest in Florida who like started dating that chick
Lord.
and they caught him on the beach and then he became an Episcopalian minister instead.
Yeah, right. Like all of a sudden he's like, "Yep, I'm changing religions now. I found pog soup."
And she's like, "Bro, this is like Campbell's chicken noodle." Like,
I've got better stuff for you back on
Yeah.
my planet, baby.
this is literally rations, but okay. That's it. Okay, but can I just tell you, that's how when my dad went in the Navy, like he was like, this food is amazing, and all the other guys were like, ugh. But my grandma was such a bad cook that he was like, this is so great, you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this episode made me really excited. Okay, another just really kind of really interesting detail is that I find it so interesting that Bo, so in theory, Din has fallen in combat while holding the Darksaber. Therefore, the Darksaber was earned by the one-eyed dude. And then ultimately Bo-Katan wins it in combat again. So she has every right to hold on to it, as far as I can tell. But she doesn't. She gives it back to him. She uses it, and then she's like,
So here's the weird thing about the Darksaber is that it was won by Goff Midian, right?
Yeah.
But prior to that, we saw it in the animated series with like Dark Maul, Sabine,
right. So Sabine,
Vizsla.
so
like,
Sabine gifts it,
but
to
not
her.
everybody. And Ahsoka, but not everybody. Like even if they defeated the person, it's not like they inherited the Darksaber.
Well, so Sabine gifts it to Bo-Katan, and then ultimately, like that's what the armor has been saying, because it was gifted and it was not won by combat, it was not her right. So that's like the curse that they're claiming right now.
I feel like taming the mythosaur is like better even than having the Darksaber.
Certainly. But it does kind of bring to mind, okay, so what are they going to do? Like, are they going to go straight to the armorer now and say, dude, we just found a mythosaur, everyone come on back to the planet? Or is it like, okay, so now is it a race to the armorer going, oh, okay, so the planet's all right, and there's a mythosaur. I want to write it for, because I do find it interesting that the armorer has never actually challenged Din either, right? I wonder why not.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that like Bo-Katan's gonna just jump right back in the water and try to tame a mythosaur. I think that she knows it's there. We don't even know if Din knows that it's there because he was probably unconscious, right? So I feel like she's going to formulate a plan in her head. Din's first thing is going to want to be going back to the armor and saying, look, you know, and we don't know what proof he has, even though I feel like their suits record everything that they've ever done.
Right.
But, and so one of the things that Peter brought up, and this was a while back, so I have to go scroll, but he said something about if Bo-Katan and the armor meet up. Now that, so now that Bo is Din's witness of being in the waters, I hope we get a face-to-face with the armorer. But then he also said, I wonder if the armorer will agree that Bo is redeemed as well, since she bathed in the living waters as well. But according to
that's interesting
their
too.
rules, she still takes off her helmet, and that's like a big no-no for them.
Right,
so we'll
right,
see.
Right. Well, ultimately,
and he's also speculating if the armorer is Sabine's mom.
Oh shit, that would be nuts.
Oh, so, and he's also saying that Din's wasn't a duel, he was booby trapped. You said booby.
Fair enough. Booby. All interesting stuff. I am looking forward to seeing what happens next. We have a new episode midnight tomorrow or Wednesday.
We're out of time.
We will be back next week to talk more about that. Perhaps if we got some time, we'll also talk about, there was a little bit of news this past week about some of the Star Wars film projects that are now officially in the cans, because Rogue Squadron is officially no longer in development. Something else was officially, the Kevin Feige project is also not in the development. And we'll get to that next week. But for now, let's bring in the gang from Geek Beast as we move into crosstalk.
That was for the beast. You guys are also very sexy, but it was for the beast. Like,
yes. Wow.
That's a very Conan O'Brien thing, right? Doesn't he do that? I also do the string dance very well, you guys.
Welcome. How's it going, Chuck?
Yeah. How you doing?
Hey. Oh. Hi, Rikai.
I don't think so. Hi, Rikai.
So welcome the gang from Geek Beast. So what's on the docket for you guys today? Are you guys doing some Oscar talk?
We're talking about Oscars. We're talking about the Little Mermaid trailer.
Yeah, now that was interesting
to
drop the Little Mermaid trailer in the middle of the show, which is like, okay, I guess it's good to be Disney and own ABC.
Oh, was it actually in the middle of the Oscar show, or was it an ad in the middle of the Oscars?
No, it was in the middle of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay. So on Hulu, it wasn't on there, so I didn't get to see it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they like pre-recorded
to the Googles.
But it was part of the broadcast.
Yep.
Interesting.
It's there. We're also talking about, there's something I want to talk about. Chang can jump.
Yeah. I have not that's coming out soon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know when it releases on Disney Plus?
I don't. I didn't see the release date. I just saw it go up, and I was like, I am very curious about that movie, and I want to discuss that movie a little bit.
Well, and this is an adaptation too, right? An adaptation of is it a comic or is it a graphic novel?
I think it's a graphic novel. Yeah.
What is it? Chang can jump?
Chang can jump.
Like CHANG?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Never even heard of it.
Yeah. It's kind of like Disney's releasing it, and they just didn't put any marketing behind it. But it's very interesting for Disney. It's a Disney Plus film.
And it's a series or a film?
I think it's a film. It looks like a film. I would love it. The film releases Disney Plus on March 10th.
Okay.
So it's out
Wait.
apparently.
March 10th.
So it came out
so
on
it's already
Mario
out.
Day?
Yeah, it came out
Apparently
on
so.
Mario Day. And the trailer is making the rounds now. Lena Waithe is one of the producers on it. That has me excited about it because she did a great job on what's the show with the Indian comedian? Jesus Christ.
Aziz Ansari.
Aziz Ansari show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Master of None.
Master of None. Yeah, she was one of the producers on that for this third season. And it's a great season as well. Jim Lee. Yeah.
I love that it's a sports movie, but it's not a sports movie.
Yeah. It's
Because he's not athletic.
movie.
Yeah, he's not athletic. He's not on the team.
He's in the band, actually.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean,
Like
so-
he just happens to be able to jump really well?
no, he doesn't jump well. So the whole
Oh.
movie is about him getting his jump ability to dunk to prove to this guy he can dunk.
So there's no superpowers involved or anything. He just practices.
Practices.
No, a
Ah.
guy kind of bullying him over. I guess they like the same girl.
Like the same girl. Yeah.
So the other
Typical
guy
coming of age kind of, underdog sport. But now this is also coming out the gate a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes too.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's interesting
Ooh.
because I have seen like marginal buzz about this movie.
Exactly.
Just very little detail though, but it's like, yeah, there is some buzz about this.
And it's like Disney, you should promote this movie. You need to promote your service. People are not going to watch the original Little Mermaid, the animated movie, a million times.
Well, like I said, I watch Disney Plus all the time, and I have not heard of this at all. So
we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
And that's the thing for me.
All
you know,
right.
when it comes to Disney Plus, if it's not Marvel or Star Wars related, yeah, I'm somewhere else.
Pop up. Like Wrong Gone Wrong was an amazing movie. And they should have promoted that movie.
never heard of it.
Yeah, I've
Watch
heard of it.
Ron Gone Wrong. Oh
I
my
never
God.
watched it.
What is it called?
Ron Gone Wrong.
Ron.
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 Ron
Okay.
Gone Wrong. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good.
Is
Okay.
it a live action or
It's an animated movie. It's an animated.
Oh.
The
Oh wait, that's the it's the little robot movie, right? That
Mhm.
was and it was actually like one of the things that was like produced by Fox, but
Yeah.
got carried over
to
for distribution. I feel like there are a few of those projects too that just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
I wonder if
They-
Chain Can Dunk is the same way, and they just pulled it over.
Yeah,
You know.
Oh.
I mean, well, it's looking like it is listed under Walt Disney Pictures.
Yeah.
See, I always feel like it's just me being like out of the loop and super uncool. But like I never would have heard of Reservation Dogs if it wasn't for Rodney posting about it.
Yeah. Reservation Dogs
And that show's amazing.
show's amazing. There's a
So
lot of
good.
there's a lot of things not being promoted properly, and I want to talk about that, especially
I count on you, Chuck and Rodney. I count on you for these things.
appreciate it. There's a lot of things I want to talk about because there are people of color that they're pushing out really good content right now. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh my god, and the guest stars on it, like the people who are like the second tier characters are all like super famous actors. I love the guy who is the cop because he was on the other show that Katie Sackhoff was on that I'm totally blanking on the name now. And he was Yeah.
Yeah, he was in
Oh,
Westworld.
see, I'm behind on Westworld.
Okay.
But he's basically playing the comedic version of his character on that other show. But he's so good.
Dark Skins.
A24, but they do everything at it. I got stuff in the mail on it, and I'm not even the voting up to the final votes. I'm like an early member. I'm like, what? Why did I get something?
I was
I'm gonna let you finish. But Angela Bassett should have won over Jamie Lee.
I don't think so.
so that was the one thing I was
Over
like, I
Jamie.
was so conflicted about that. I felt like they both like either one of them winning would have been the only options for me, right? Like it was going to be that one or the other.
See, I got a hot take on that. I think Stephanie Sue should have won it.
Mm.
Oh, from the whale.
No.
Everywhere all at once.
Oh, the daughter. Yeah, she was amazing.
She definitely was underappreciated through the whole awards
She was
process.
underappreciated through all of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the focus was on not only Michelle Yeoh but Ki Kwan.
Yeah.
So he was deserving. What a comeback! But
People care to forget she played multiple versions of herself in this
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I felt like if it was whether you're going to honor Angela Bassett's career,
Yeah.
but in terms of specifically like performance, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a very tough field, right? I mean, Hong Chow also in the Whale,
Yeah.
I mean, is a heavy hitter, as well. So
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
I think Angela should have got it over Jamie Lee Curtis, but I think Stephanie should have probably won it.
yeah, she's still got time
For
though,
Jamie
right?
Lee Curtis, it was basically a Lifetime Achievement
It was
Award.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, in that point though, then you
Should've
weigh
hit for a
lifetime
Lifetime
achievement
Achievement Award.
for Angela Bassett too.
But we know this is a campaign. It's not
Yeah.
based on merit. People
It's true.
that these award shows are based on merit, and I tell them to know they're not based on the merit of the performances. They're based on the campaign behind them. There is a reason why Miramax, the Weinstein Company, hired both President Clinton's campaign manager and President Obama's campaign manager. There's a reason why they hired them and paid them more money than the politicians paid them.
That said, it's been a hell of a year for A24, man.
A24, I know it. They because they want to be.
I actually know somebody who works for them and was there last night.
That's
I didn't know she worked for them until yesterday, and she was like, "So we had a pretty good night."
Had a great night. Congratulations. I think A24 makes really good movies too. They're solid.
All right. Well, if you would like to hear more of this and more discussion about Oscar buzz and the results of everything last night, stick around for Geek Beast. They're coming up in just a minute. We're wrapping up our show. Of course, we are the Pod Squadron. Come back next Monday. We're gonna check in on Bad Batch episode 13, Pabu, as well as Mandalorian chapter 19. Cannot wait for tomorrow night. We want to see all of your Star Wars creations. Do you cosplay? Do you make fan films? Do you build droids? Build models? Sell stuff on Etsy? Show us how Star Wars has inspired you, and we just might bring you on the show. Also, thank you for joining us tonight. We're here on the Geekish Network every Monday. Please follow Geekish Network on YouTube, Facebook, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us here every Monday night. Check out the schedules for all the other great shows here throughout the week. And thanks on the flight deck to the Rodney. We are the Pod Squadron. Check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate at @ChinesePirate_ on all platforms.
I like how you said the Rodney, not just Rodney, the Rodney.
The Rod.
The Rod. That's what we're gonna name him, the Rod.
The voice of Rod.
Yes.
I'm Tracy, the hot nerd girl. You can find me all over the place, man.
And all wings return to base, course laid in and prepared to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night.
Bye. Oh, where's my thingies? Bye. How long are we gonna go? How long? How long, Rod? Oh, I lost my thing.
It did fall off. Oh, girl. Do you have to go pee now?
I always have to pee.
I know.
Always.
The hour's tough.